December 26, 1900. The relief ship Hesperus holds its position against a heavy North Atlantic swell. No signal flags flutter from the gallery of the Flannan Light. No boat departs the shore. Joseph Mòr, the relief keeper, rows towards the east landing alone. The silence of the island is more piercing than the wind. He finds the lighthouse door unlocked. In the kitchen, a meal of salted beef sits on the table, preserved by the chill but untouched. A single chair lies on the floor. Thomas Marshall, James Ducat, and Donald MacArthur are gone. The lamps are primed. The machinery is polished, but the island is hollow. Eilean Mòr is a jagged tooth of Lewisian gneiss, biting upward from the sea. It is raw stone, billions of years old, indifferent to the men who cling to its surface. There is no shelter here, only the grass, the gulls, and the tower. In 1900, this lighthouse was a modern intrusion, a white finger of stone built to guide ships through the Outer Hebrides. But while the tower was engineered to withstand the impossible, the men inside were made of softer material. Isolation on the Flannans is a physical weight. It settles in the joints. It makes the ears ring. The world shrinks to the diameter of the island and the rhythmic pulse of the light. 6 flashes, then darkness, a heartbeat of fire and glass. Captain James Harvey watches the shore through his glass from the deck of the Hesperus. Usually, a relief ship brings a flurry of activity. Keepers are desperate for mail, fresh tobacco, or a word from the mainland. Today, Eilean Mòr is a tomb. When Mòr steps onto the east landing, his boots crunch on wet stone. He expects to see a face at the gallery rail. He sees nothing. He enters the living quarters. The kitchen is clean. The pots are scoured. The beds are made with military precision. But the house is dead. The fire has been out for days. On the table, the grease of the meat has hardened into a white film. One chair, MacArthur's, rests on its side. It is a frantic gesture, frozen in wood. Mòr retreats, racing back to the landing with his heart hammering against his ribs. "They're gone," he tells the captain. "The place is empty." The ink is precise. Until the entries begin to fracture, the logbook is the only witness left behind. It tracks the days leading up to December 15th, describing a weather system that defies the records of the outside world. On December 12th, Marshall writes of a storm more severe than any in his 20-year career. He describes James Ducat, a veteran of the sea, as very quiet. He records that Donald MacArthur, a man known for his toughness, was crying. This is the jarring detail. 3 hardened men reduced to tears and silence by the sky. On December 13th, the storm continues. They have been praying. The final entry on December 15th reads, "Storm ended, sea calm. God is over all." But weather stations on the mainland just 20 miles away recorded no storms on these dates. The seas were rough, typical for a December in the Hebrides, but there was no hurricane. If there was a storm on Eilean Mòr, it was a private one, a localized madness of wind that the rest of the world never felt. At the West Landing, the island shows its scars. Investigators found the iron railings bolted deep into the rock, twisted, like wet straw. A massive crate of landing gear had been smashed and scattered. A rock, weighing over a ton, had been shoved from its resting place. High above the sea, the turf had been ripped from the cliffside, as if by giant fingers. The evidence suggests a wave of such magnitude it defies the vocabulary of the era. A wall of water that rose out of the dark and swept the ledge clean. But there is the matter of the oilskins. In the lighthouse, one set of oilskins remains on the peg, Donald MacArthur's. The experienced keeper would step onto the Flannans in December without his coat. It is a death sentence. It suggests that MacArthur saw something through the window, something so urgent or so terrifying that he bolted from the kitchen in his shirt sleeves. He left the door open. He left the meal. He left his protection behind. The most grounded theory involves the West Landing. Perhaps Marshall and Ducat were at the water's edge, trying to secure the gear as the sea rose. A freak wave may have swept them from the platform. MacArthur, watching from the gallery, would have seen his comrades vanish. In a moment of blind instinct, he would have pushed back his chair and raced down the stairs to help. And then, a second wave, a clean sweep. It is logical, it fits the twisted iron, but it does not explain the logbook. It does not account for the prayers for a storm that did not exist. Then, there is the lighthouse fear. It is the loss of the horizon. The world shrinks until the person sitting across from you becomes the focus of every mounting resentment. Small sounds, the scrape of a fork, the sound of breathing, becomes unbearable. Did a fracture occur? Did the silence finally break them? One theory suggests a moment of violence in the kitchen, followed by a walk into the surf. But there was no blood. There was no sign of a struggle, only that single overturned chair. The lighthouse is now automated. No keepers live in the stone tower. The meals are set on the table. The light still flashes, but there is no one there to watch the brass machinery turn. The mystery remains because the sea does not explain its actions. We are left with the image of an open door and a stopped clock. We are left with the final words of a man who thought the world was ending while the mainland swept in peace. The island is indifferent to our questions. The wind scours the stone. The gulls scream at the cliffs. And somewhere, in the dark of the North Atlantic, the three keepers of Flannan Light remain. They did not go into history. They went into silence.